Welcome back to Famous Movie Spy after 3 years. I'm eternally grateful Superman and Lois never used the one story I worried it would with Superman and Lois having concluded after 4 seasons and 3 years. I'm more glad than ever that the DC series never delved into a notorious and prolific story trope despite how common it is both inside and outside of the superhero genre. Over the course of its 53-episode-long run, Superman and Lois hit on many classic moments audiences have come to expect from superhero releases. The live-action Superman show adapted famous comic storylines, featured huge villain debuts, and included at least 1 or 2 dramatic monologues for good measure. However, what the show avoided is also equally interesting. While the installment delved deep into some superhero tropes, it also totally dodged some others that might have externally seemed all too common to ignore. From a series that also wasn't afraid to delve into relatively untrod territory, with Superman and Lois Season 4, Episode 10 killing off both Superman and Lois permanently in its ending, these decisions hold all the more weight. Indeed, I think I'm eternally glad the show wasn't afraid to forego some television story conventions when it came to 2 of the main characters and their stories. Superman and Lois avoided one of the most common romance tropes of the superhero genre. A considerable amount of love triangles and dramatic romance stories have appeared in superhero releases. Superman and Lois' first episode saw the titular duo's family move from Metropolis back to Clark's hometown of Smallville after his mother's passing, with the couple believing this is what's best for the family after they both lose their jobs at the Daily Planet. And shortly after discovering their son Jordan has started showing signs of developing powers similar to Superman's. Moving back to the town means Clark reuniting with a lot of familiar faces who flesh out the Superman and Lois cast, including Lana Lang. Lana and Clark were childhood best friends and childhood sweethearts, dating for what suggested to be a not inconsiderable period of their teen years. Other live-action shows have spent more time delving into the idea of the pair being a couple in their actual plots, with Lana being Clark's first love interest in Smallville, and even the classic Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, featuring an alternate universe pair of the characters who remain a couple in adulthood. Despite the fact that the show was not afraid to delve into soapy-esque relationship drama, as evidenced by much of Jordan and Sarah's romantic relationship, Superman and Lois avoided the cliché of even so much as teasing that Clark and Lana's romance could reignite, instead cementing them as dear friends through and through. With other Arrowverse shows like Arrow and The Flash centering their hero in relationship strife and love triangles, it's nice to see that this wasn't considered a necessity with Superman and Lois, despite how common these storylines have been in other places. Superman and Lois ending proves it was right to focus on Lana and Clark's friendship. Clark and Lana being friends through and through pays off to provide even more real emotional weight to the show's ending. Had Superman and Lois simply decided to add drama to its story by having Lana fall back in love with Clark, it would have risked losing much of what makes the pair's actual dynamic interesting. Following Martha Kent's death, Lana is the person in Clark's life who has known him the longest, and their long history makes Clark more interesting, both because we get to see the perspective of someone who's known him since he was a kid, and because we initially know Lana isn't yet aware Clark is Superman despite all the years and the trust between them. Superman and Lois ending underlines how crucial Lana and Clark's platonic friendship is in a few crucial ways, with the first coming as Clark walks Lana down the aisle as she's getting married to John Henry Irons. As the pair walk, Lana thanks Clark for always being her best friend, and the moment has all the more impact given the seasons the show dedicated to detailing their friendship, which would have ultimately been undermined if Clark had instead needed to reiterate his romantic loyalty to Lois at any point in the show. Similarly, during the very final sequence when Superman says his goodbyes to all the main people he's cared for throughout his life before entering the afterlife with Lois, his goodbye to Lana is a notable part of things. Once again, the time the show spent fleshing out their friendship across its seasons with a wide range of storylines pays off twofold here, as it adds far more depth to their bond and more emotion to this moment than any love triangle tease could have possibly done. Why Superman's friendship with Lana is such an important part of his DC show story. Superman's bonds with those around him are a crucial part of his story. Superman and Lois understandably focuses on the importance of Clark's romance with Lois throughout its run, as well as the importance of his bond with his sons. It's along these same lines that Clark's friendship with Lana is so key, as each of these people show who Clark is as a person in a slightly different way. Seeing the Man of Steel be able to reminisce about being an awkward teenager with a childhood friend works really well for the show, as it shows Superman on a very human level, joking with an old friend, and able to seek advice from her and give advice to her. The superhero genre focuses a lot on romantic relationships, and while this makes sense, it also often means the valuable platonic friendships that helped make the characters who they are can be overlooked, which is a shame when they can offer such interesting insight into the heroes in these stories themselves. As such, I'm very much glad that Superman and Lois made sure Clark and Lona's friendship was a key part of his overarching story, especially since the way their bond was explored allowed focus to remain on the love between Lois Lane and Clark Kent throughout the entire run of the show.